Hey y'all, and welcome back to Sweet Pea and Peonies Designs. Today I'm going to show you how I made a rhinestone cutting board. So I'm taking an 80 grit sanding block and just scuffing up the surface. I am not using a lot of pressure here at all. I didn't want to ruin the surface, so I'm using very light pressure. And then I used a tack cloth to clean it up. And I felt like it was still a little too smooth, so I did that entire process again. And then we're ready to go ahead and start blinging out this cutting board. So here are 3 different mixes. I'll have them linked in the description box below. They all 3 are from Diamond Fire Rhinestones. After that, we just went ahead and used some liquid fusion. I have it in a glue pen from the Blinging Bluebird, and it's just a really fat pen with a kind of precision tip on it. It's not as narrow as a precision tip, but it is on the smaller side. And it's just really easy to squeeze. I do find sometimes that my hands hurt, and I think it's from cracking my fingers. But I find this pen is really comfortable for me to squeeze. It doesn't hurt my hand, it doesn't hurt my wrists, nothing like that. So I do like to use that glue pen from the Blinging Bluebird. Then I just added a little bit of glue and then my stones. So this is scatter method. I know on my last video where I showed y'all how I blinged a pen, I did the honeycomb method. This is the scatter method. So basically what scatter method is you have all different size stones from super small SS3s to the biggest stone that I have used, which is an SS20, and you just go ahead and basically apply those stones to your project in a very random pattern. There's no pattern at all, really. You're just applying the stones however they fit best to fill in the space that you're trying to put the stones. Also, you want to make sure that if you're using different colored stones like I am, that you aren't picking up a bunch of purples and putting them all next to each other and then a bunch of pinks right next to each other. So just make sure that you're actually scattering all the different colors and basically making them to where you don't have big clumps of certain colors. So once you put your bigger stones down, because I would start with bigger stones. Basically, I'm using a lot of big stones, and then if I have any little gaps that I can put a small stone in, I will. So I'm gonna make sure I'm using a lot of big stones and then fill in the empty spaces or the gaps with the smaller stones that I have. Now keep in mind, these are all circles, so you are gonna have some gaps. It is normal to not be able to fill in every nook and cranny of your project. It's okay to have some gaps. And there are some people who just say embrace the gaps. They don't buy the smallest stones to fill in the gaps. And that's totally personal preference. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. I am the type of person that likes to fill in the gaps as much as possible. I don't really want to see the project that I'm working on underneath. So I use the smaller stones to fill them in as much as possible. Normally you would base paint whatever your project is. So if I'm doing a tumbler and I'm doing red rhinestones on it, I would base paint the entire tumbler red and then put the stones on top of the red paint or spray paint, whatever you use, to make sure that if I do have any gaps, you won't really see it too much because the red paint underneath will kind of blend in with the stones. I didn't do that on this cutting board. I just didn't feel like it was overly necessary. There are some spaces, if you look at it super close, that you can see the wood underneath, but it doesn't bother me. I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I didn't base paint it. And honestly, when I started, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with it. I know that I wanted to have all of the stones super close like you see right here. And then I wanted to eventually kind of spread them out or have them fade out, if you will. But I wasn't sure where I wanted that to start at. So I didn't even bother base painting it. Plus, there's so many different colors in these 3 mixes that I used that I wasn't really sure what color I would use anyway to base paint. So that's why I just left it the wood. I didn't cover it up, and I honestly think it's fine. Now, if you're doing a tumbler that is going to be silver and you're using a red stone or a pink stone or something like that, you will be able to see that stainless steel shining through. So just make sure whatever project you're working on that you use your own personal discretion on whether you should base paint it or not. If the stones that you're using are super close to a stainless steel color, then you don't need to base paint it. Like if you're going to use like a crystal or a silver stone, you don't need to base paint your tumbler or whatever your project is. But if you're using like a red, a pink, and orange, it might be a good idea to base paint it. So clearly I was out of frame on this, but it is what it is. At one point, I was going to put these little shards of glass on it. I kind of just placed them right there to see what it looked like, and I decided that I didn't like that. I didn't want to do that. So that's what that little clip right there was. Also, all of these clips that I'm showing y'all on YouTube are from my TikTok. So I go live a lot on my TikTok. Pretty much any project that I'm doing, I am doing it live. So in these YouTube videos, it is highly sped up because it does take a while to do rhinestone projects. And also I am on live chatting with people, and so I may be like showing something that I'm doing, like showing them a product that I'm using that you may see in this video, and you may be like, why is she showing that and not explaining it? It's super sped up. That's why. I try to edit these the best I can, but if you do rhinestone projects, you know that they take hours upon hours depending on what you're doing, and to sit through 6 to 10 hours of footage and literally watch the entire thing and edit it that closely is just something that I don't have time for. Honestly, I'm being 100% transparent with y'all. So you may see some little things flashing in and out, like maybe the glue I'm using, or like those glass shards that y'all just saw that really I could have edited out, but I didn't realize it was in there because I didn't look that closely at the footage, because it took me about 6 hours to do this. So yes, that's my little rant. If you're still around after that, you can see that I am progressively going up the cutting board, and at some point soon I am going to start fading out those stones. So one thing that I will say that I kind of messed up on this, I fixed it and it's fine, but when I did decide to start fading those stones out, these stones were higher up on the left side of the board than the right side, so it kind of made like a wave, if you will. And I didn't like that look. I wanted the stones to start fading out on the same side, on the left and on the right, and in the middle of the board. So I actually had to remove some of the stones, which wasn't hard because the glue wasn't set yet. But just make sure if you're going to do this, do you want the stones to start fading out at the same part on the board, or do you care if it's like a little, a wave shape or something? So that's just something you need to decide. And then when you decide that it is time to start fading them out, just make sure that it's straight across the board, literally. If you want it to be straight across the board. If you don't, put more stones on one side than the other. Do whatever makes you happy and makes you comfortable. So that is one thing that I realized I did after I did it, and it took me 20-30 minutes to take those stones off, add more stones, and then just continue with what I was doing. Also, at this point, I wasn't sure where I was going to fade it out. I just kind of went with it and kind of eyeballed it and just decided when I felt that it was right. Like, I didn't want a small section of stones that were all clustered together. Like, at this point, I didn't think there was enough stones on the board to start fading it out. So I just, like I said, kept adding them until I felt like it was a good place to stop. Also, I try to apply my stones starting at the left and then going to the right, but at one point I did kind of cluster them together, like do a big cluster on the left and then move into the middle and then the right. That really doesn't matter. There isn't any like rhyme or reason as to how you need to apply the stones on what side of the project. You know, do I have to go in a line? No. Can I apply them in clusters along the project? And you can. It's however you want to apply them, whatever makes you happy. And truthfully, I started at the left, went to the right, and then started applying them on the board in clusters. So you can do that too. It's just whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you feel comfortable. So this is kind of a little up close. You can see the shine on them. And clearly I did not put stones on that little metal piece. If you wanted to, you could. That's just whatever you want to do. This board, originally I was going to glitter and epoxy, but since I'm not really working with epoxy too much or not doing full projects with epoxy, I decided to rhinestone it and just see what happened. So since this board was something that I was planning on making into a project anyway, we had no intent on actually using this in our kitchen as a cutting board. I just decided to take these 3 mixes that I got together from the Diamond Fire Rhinestone company and just apply the stones and see what happens. So that's kind of what that was supposed to be. But I honestly love the way this turned out. Y'all will see it soon. So I know this is a lot of like repetitive, just applying stones, but I wanted to show y'all the entire process of it. I could definitely have cut out certain sections and made this video a lot faster, a lot shorter, but I wanted to show it to y'all from start to finish so you could see the progression of it instead of cutting out like the middle of it. So starting in the tip of the cutting board and then going to where it faded out. Again, I know it's repetitive, but when I'm watching a YouTube video, I want to see it from start to end. So that's why you're seeing it from start to end. So from here on out, it's pretty much the same thing that I explained to y'all, just using your bigger stones. Make sure that you're using more of your bigger stones and your smaller stones. One, using more of your bigger stones will, one, get done the project faster. Two, if you're using a bunch of smaller stones and not a lot of big stones, it's going to take longer, and you may honestly end up running out of stones, or you may even find that you are really close to running out of stones. So make sure you're using a lot of those bigger stones to to apply to your project. Use your smaller stones pretty much just to fill in your spacing. So that is what I did. I am going to stay quiet for the next little bit until we get to the part where it starts to fade out, because again, all of this is repetitive. I've explained it, so I will hop off for a second and be back with my voiceover when we start to fade out the stones. Okay, y'all, I'm back. So now we're gonna go ahead and start adding the stones and start fading them out. So basically I'm just applying the stones onto the board and leaving a little bit of the cutting board exposed, so I'm not putting stones right next to each other like we've been doing. I'm kind of putting a stone and then going a little bit over and putting another stone. You can definitely see what I'm doing in the video. And then I'm just gonna keep doing this as we're going up the board, but making sure that the spacing in between the stones gets greater and greater until eventually we have like 3 or 4 stones at the top. If you're the planning type, you could take a ruler and decide where you want the fade to start and put a little tally mark on the left and a little tally mark on the right. And that way you'll ensure that you get a nice straight line of where your stones start to fade. That's totally up to you. I kind of willy-nilly just ran with this and went with it in the moment. So that is an option if you like to do that. So basically that is how I did this board. I absolutely love how it came out. Y'all will see it in just a moment. And I hope that this inspires y'all to do something out of the box that you've never seen anyone do. Also, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you liked this type of project. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that way you never miss another video from me. I'm still trying to get into my schedule of uploading since these projects do take a lot longer to do and they are a lot more intensive on the editing and the voiceover. I'm still trying to figure out that schedule. But I am hoping that in the near future, I'll be able to kind of get these videos out to y'all every week. I'm just not there yet. I need to get a few videos ahead in order to do that. So after I applied these stones, I did wash it with some Dawn dish soap and water, dried it off, and here it is in the beautiful golden hour with the sun setting and the sparkle. Y'all, I just love how this came out. I love the stones. They're absolutely gorgeous. The sparkle on them is insane. And I am so happy that I went out of the box and actually rhinestone this, even though that wasn't my original intent for it. But look at that sparkle. It is gorgeous. You could put some cheese on here if you wanted to. I wouldn't necessarily use it as a normal cutting board, but I think it's pretty, it's decorative, and I just love the sparkle on it. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video and you got some helpful, useful information out of it. And be on the lookout for my next video. I will be uploading it very, very soon. Thank y'all so much for watching and always supporting and liking, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. Y'all already know. So thank you.